ABC Los Angeles.
This is community-minded KRSI Radio, 950 in St. Louis Park. Going to the movies is always a big occasion when you go to the beautiful Hopkins Theater. And the Hopkins Theater always offers you the ultimate in fine film entertainment. Right now, see this spectacular double feature at the Hopkins Theater. The Russians Are Coming, with 4 Academy Award nominations, and 1,000 Clowns, 2 of the year's top motion pictures. At the Hopkins Theater, no effort is spared to give you the utmost in comfort. You'll like the handsome contemporary design and the ease of parking. The next time you plan to go to the movies, enjoy the luxury and comfort waiting for you at the beautiful Hopkins Theater in the heart of Hopkins. And be sure to see The Russians Are Coming with 4 Academy Award nominations and 1,000 Clowns. And see them at the Hopkins Theater in the heart of Hopkins, where luxurious smoking lounges add to your enjoyment. The Russians Are Coming will be shown at 7:15 p.m. and 1,000 Clowns once at 9:30 tonight. Twin Cities' noontime temperature is 36 degrees with a south wind 18 miles per hour.
Here's another wild, wonderful food tip from Mrs. Wolf. Potato salad Laminsk is mixing diced boiled potatoes while still warm with Mrs. Wolf's Russian dressing. Is aging for an hour in the refrigerator. Then add other ingredients. Is groovy.
Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. Speaking for Burmel's Maybe Realtors. Stand by for news.
Paul Harvey's commentary in just a moment. Every day, more and more families place their confidence in Burmel's Maybe Realtors when it comes to buying a home. Burmel's Maybe Realtors have been serving the Twin Cities and suburban areas since 1947 and have established an enviable reputation in the community for ethical dealing. They never lose sight of the fact that in dealing in real estate, they are also dealing with families. Now, to Burmel's Maybe, this is both a privilege and a responsibility, and their customers appreciate this attitude, as well as the personal service they receive from Burmel's Maybe. Burmel's Maybe Realtors are able at all times to provide quality homes at reasonable prices. They're able at all times to suit the home to the family. In addition, Burmel's Maybe Realtors participate actively in the real estate organizations that subscribe to the higher standards of real estate ethics. Their staff of 60 expert sales representatives observe the Realtors Code of Ethics, and this is your assurance that you can rely on the knowledge and integrity of Burmel's Maybe, a Twin Cities real estate tradition since 1947.
And now, Paul Harvey News. From Nashua, New Hampshire. Hello again, Americans. Your Pentagon has asked Congress for more than $2.5 billion in new military construction in the United States and elsewhere was all. I don't know. All the installations and bases we've been closing up and shutting down, now they plan another $2.5 billion in new construction. University of Santa Clara has named as regent for a 5-year term actor Fess Parker. Oh, did you hear the proposal that Adam Clayton Powell and Senator Ev Dirksen make a record together? Adam Clayton Powell and Senator Ev Dirksen make a record together, call it Adam and Ev. Do you suppose the Adam Clayton Powell thing taught Congress a lesson? Did this scandal in the House and the Dodd investigation in the Senate warn our lawmakers in time to correct an almost malignant condition involving the misuse of campaign funds, promiscuous junketing, and so forth? The alerted Congress is presently considering more than 75 separate bills designed to prescribe ethical guidelines for congressional conduct. London Times quotes communist diplomats saying today that our bombing of North Vietnam has been more devastating than anybody has admitted so far. Almost total disruption of communications, plus fuel and food shortages. Russia's President Podgorny is now blaming Red China for obstructing peace in Vietnam. He says Hanoi is willing to go to the peace table, but that Peking is preventing it. What's new? A gizmo for catching bank robbers after the act. North American Aviation says that banks will mark their money chemically. Now, hear this. If the banks will mark their money with a chemical, a hovering helicopter with sensitive electronic gear can cover all escape highways and sniff out any car carrying that marked money. I know it sounds hazardously close to an invasion of the bank robbers' rights, but We'll see. Babs Hutton had a cataract removed from her right eye. Beverly Hills Hospital says condition fine. You heard yesterday that Coca-Cola prices are going up shortly. That price hike, announced yesterday, applies so far only in New York City. The pulse of today's news is Dateline Mount Clemens, Michigan. It was Christmas, as usual, at the home of the Melvin Bissons last year, except that when the season was over, the decorations did not come down. Mr. and Mrs. Bisson said it would not really be Christmas for them until their Marine Corporal son, Ray, came home from Vietnam. And they vowed to keep up the decorations until they could have a proper celebration of Christmas. And the decorations can come down now. No, Ray is home safe, and they had their Christmas last night. The razzle-dazzle ski costumes have been ordered off the ski slopes at Samaritz, Switzerland. The girls wearing those flashy ski outfits of shiny gold or silver lame, the lacquered trousers, that sort of thing, unacceptable. Management says no traction. You fall in one of those outfits, you don't stop skidding till you hit the bottom. One instructor trying to intercept one of these slithering snow bunnies almost broke his own neck, so no more. This is Nashua, New Hampshire, where we enrolled a new member in our club last night. Chap 27, convinced he could never do anything right, climbed over the bridge rail and jumped into the Nashua River. Or onto the river. It was 40 feet down. The ice didn't break. His ankle did. He said to have said as he hobbled out of sight, there's no use worrying, nothing's going to turn out all right. Montreal, 3 men got away with a payroll of Dominion Glass this morning, almost 100,000. The bandits fled into the incompleted World's Fairgrounds there. The chase looks like an old Third Man movie. There is another war within the war in Vietnam. A subtle but insidious and potentially devastating war against inflation. It is so far out of hand now in South Vietnam that I expect that country's foreign ministry is going to issue and try to enforce some real tough controls. You should see the pile of paper it takes to buy a few ounces of rice in South Vietnam. As a related development, cost of living allowances for American officers and men assigned to work and live in Saigon, cost of living allowances ends May 1. Our men say they need the extra money in Saigon because the cost of living has soared there, but the Pentagon figures that their allowance is contributing to the inflation, so incidentally, our Defense Department is now considering putting all our servicemen on straight salary instead of the present pay and allowance basis. As an idea of what would happen, a PFC now getting about $100 a month would then get about $200 a month, but no extra allowances. Mansfield, Ohio, a near normal workforce showed up at the GM plant this morning, but it is still uncertain whether this Wildcat walkout is really over. This thing is real wild. Apparently, even Walter Reuther can't discipline these maverick local leaders. This is a parts plant, you know, and you cut off the supply of those parts, and hundreds of thousands of workers with no beef get laid off anyway. Oh, this broadcast is heard in 50 states and Canadian provinces and our Armed Forces radio network overseas, and that explains this closed-circuit mention for the British Isles. Last night in Britain, you were listening for another radio news broadcast, not this one, and just before the start of the program, you heard a girl's voice say, quote, "Bob, stop it." And there was a pause, and the girl's voice, now almost a shout, said, "Bob, you will have to stop right now." The voice you heard was studio manager Ann Paisley, trying to get the producer Bob Craddock to cut short a phone call because they were going on the air. That is all that happened, I'm told. Page 2.
The legislature will please come to order. Mr. Chairman, I propose we have a sales tax on daylight saving time, which will be entirely based on reapportioned water and air pollution mosquito control areas to be in effect whenever snow emergencies are taking place. Give me that again? I said, Mr. Chairman, I recognize the distinguished representative of the Home Juice Company.
We don't need to tax anything. All we need are people beginning every day with Home Hoosh Breakfast Orange. Home Hoosh has vitamin C, the sunshine vitamin that will help cure a lot of things.
Jose, your proposal sounds fine, but you must realize every bill must have a number.
See, Mr. Chairman, my number is 454-4121.
454-4121?
See, that's the number of Home Hoosh that everybody should call right now for their Home Hoosh tomorrow morning.
Do the members of the legislature agree?
Yes, yes.
This is Nashua, New Hampshire. This is where good politicians go to find out How good? If you think you are just what the world is waiting for, and you want to know whether the world is ready for you, you go to Nashua, New Hampshire. For this state conducts the first primary election in our nation. It's geographically convenient to campaign here, and if a New Englander looks you over and applauds, you have passed the acid test. It was on the courthouse steps of Nashua, New Hampshire that young Jack Kennedy tested his political potential just 7 years ago. And Nashua applauded. Nashua, New Hampshire, halfway between the White Mountains and the sea, has some of everything recreationally. The pine forests hereabout abound with game, and today that woodland is draped with a mantle of immaculate white. The simply lovely architecture of New England against that Christmas garden snowscape. Now, where I work here in the gracious offices and studios of WFMN is on a suburban hilltop set back on a spacious lawnscape, now porch rail deep in uncompacted fairy-like flakes of snow. Where I sleep here is an inn on the old stagecoach road where every crossroad perpetuates New Hampshire's historical heritage with a magic name of its own, dating back 300 years. But if you had heard New Englanders were cold, forget that. Last night I addressed the largest banquet in the history of 3 states here and hereabouts, and the generous outpouring of hospitality is like nothing you'll sample this side of Dixie. But then I am reminded Nashua is in South New Hampshire. And if you heard New Englanders were conservative to the point of stagnation, you can forget that too. Nashua's population has doubled in the past 15 years. Nashua's former textile industry has diversified. Now it's mostly electronic and expanding as recently as right now. And where our national unemployment is about 6%, in Nashua, unemployment is only 1.3%. Oh, they have a suburban super shopping center here just for cars. I mean, all car dealers in one big shopping center. You can go there and shop for whatever kind you want. You ever hear such a thing? It's called the New England Automotive Village. How about that? A lot of French Canadians here. And you combine their culinary artistry with New England's readily available seafood, and Nashua straddles 2 rivers, the Nashua and the Merrimack. You remember Air Force General Singh, of course. He is director of an aeronautical institute here in Nashua, which trains graduates in aviation, aerospace, and allied skills, specifically preparing young people for this Tomorrowland that's rushing at us so irrevocably. So perhaps like you, I had some preconceived notions about this cradle corner of our country, notions which are at least a generation out of date. But for all its vigorous industry, for all its visitors who came to stay, for all its increasing compromise with modern architecture, its political homogenization, and though the textile industry has been phased out hereabouts, the New Hampshire New Englander epitomizes the truly good neighbor. He stops to pray, he works each day, he pays his way, and he tends first to his own knitting. Here is a potpourri of today's news from page 3. Those 5 mountain climbers have been flown down from Mount McKinley. 3 say they reached the summit, the first anybody to do so in wintertime. But 2 members of the climbing expedition, missing since Sunday, still are. Unfinished business, you remember Phil Rydell, the truck driver from Springville outside Buffalo, New York. More than a month ago, he was snowbound in a restaurant in East Chicago. Paid his check, and on the way out, he brushed against another customer. He said, "I'm sorry," but the other customer pulled a gun and shot Phil, the truck driver, in the chest. Phil was hospitalized in critical condition for several days. Well, back home, the doctors x-rayed him and found the bullet still in there, lodged in a lung. Permanently, they said. They said it would be too dangerous to operate. Well, the other morning, Phil was brushing his teeth and coughed, and the bullet popped out into the sink. The doctor asked, how could the bullet work its way through an artery into a lung, up the bronchial tube, and out his mouth? Said, quote, "That took a greater physician than I." Our For What It's Worth department here's from Redditch, England. Reuben Hall said he thought it was his own business if he wanted those things decorating his car, but the police objected. From his rearview mirror and elsewhere up front, his car was decorated with 1 large toy poodle and a toy bird, and 2 stuffed birds and a toy monkey. and 2 imitation butterflies and a toy rabbit. The police protested, man, you can't see out the windshield. Chap said, what windshield? From Nashua, New Hampshire, Paul Harvey. Good day. Red Cross.
Bell Smitty is pledged to provide